Welcome back, guys. Happy New Year. Okay, we are going to be looking at your 2021 report via your zodiac sign to see what can be coming up, warning dates, transformations, the unexpected, and the beautiful growth within the domain of both Saturn and Jupiter with that conjunction that just did transpire on the 21st of December 2020. Now, Saturn transited into Aquarius on the 17th of January, and the conjunction point, as I mentioned, occurred on the 21st of December at 0 degrees Aquarius. Now, Saturn spent approximately 2.5 years in Capricorn, and we did previously have the nodes in both Cancer and Capricorn. And I am seeing towards the end of 2020, with the full moon in Cancer and the heavy Capricorn placements in January, these themes are bouncing off in a karmic test to get that foundation right, to really get that accountability there so that all that we've learned we can apply it in this given situation within the age of Aquarius to get the best out of that astrology. Saturn connects to rules, discipline, responsibility, maturity, structure, challenges, restriction, enduring, death, the unknown, and endings. But it's really like a quality system to make sure that we're ticking all those boxes, learning those lessons, taking that direct accountability. And it's almost like the harsh karmic energy, but there's benefits in that. It's the lessons like a teach they teach us to really put that best foot forward, that if we do such with Jupiter, we can get the very best out of those placements. They can link to rights and responsibilities, obligations, false sense of freedom, and self-management. But it's really that self-mastery that it's going to teach us. And especially when it does go retrograde this year, it's a time to reflect upon what we've learned, what we've implemented, and as it goes direct to then make those changes. Theoretically, Saturn is at home in Aquarius. It's its natal ruler. Now, as I mentioned, Aquarius feels quite at home with Saturn. We also have the subcategory of Uranus being linked to it. That connects to the 12th house. So we have both the axis of the 11th and the 12th house themes coming through. Subject matters linking to Uranus and Taurus this year will be coming up because we have 3 squaring aspects. We also have at the beginning of January, Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct on the 1st and direct by the 14th. So sudden changes in those areas can be coming up in a very unexpected way. Aquarius really is the humanitarian of the zodiac sign, wanting to make the world better, looking at those social institutions that aren't working, transforming them, changing them up. The mantra is I know, and the tarot card is really linked to, with Aquarius, the star card in the tarot. The great connection of time. Saturn requires us to utilize that energy effectively, merge with that 11th house placement with where it's falling in your birth chart, which I will discuss in this video, to get the best out of the situation. And the yin yang, the push-pull energy that will be coming up is Uranus and Taurus making squaring aspects to Saturn in Aquarius. So what themes can we have coming up with Saturn in Aquarius? Definitely the energy of responsibility and accountability, and it can be very karmic if we do not follow suit with it. Now, with Uranus and Taurus, it can cause nervous energy, especially when it relates to anything of the tactile, financial related dynamics. And again, it will very much depend upon where it's situated in your chart, which I will mention. So with that, both with the 11th and the 12th house, this push-pull psychology surrounding the situations you're doing, it can be quite a burden. So having to really self-master, having to be extremely organised, and it's almost like, okay, we can see the blessings with Jupiter and Saturn being directly linked together, but what we're going to do to make those things happen, but not biting off more than we can chew, burning that midnight hour, so to speak, waking up at the crack of dawn to make that hope and dream come true. Really taking the direct steps of accountability with Saturn. And yes, with the sudden changes, it's almost the intuitive side. The house of our hidden enemies is going to be our psychology, really. What potentially could we expect? We could expect very much philosophies to come up. Humanitarianism, scientific revolution, music, dance, arts, group activities, more conducive relationships. There can be this notion coming up in 2021 and beyond where we have tribe and pack mentality. So initially we will need to adjust to the energy of Aquarius. If you do study zodiac signs, Aquarius, when they're born and they're growing into that energy, initially do feel like the black sheep of the family. They have very, very firm ideals. They really do fight for the underdog. So, initially it can feel like they're on the outside with those burdens and responsibilities. As we move into this, a lot of us can embody some of that frequency, and it can feel very foreign and alienating initially. But again, with the psychology of the 12th house, we do need to really have a goal in mind. That can be for the bigger picture, where we are learning to have alliances, learning to work together. And it can be due to circumstances that do happen in our own lives personally, or on a wider scale, a global situation that is pulling us together to make us directly work with each other. The old theme of there's no I in team. So, yes, initially pack mentality can come through, but then understanding that for survival will be there's no I in team, and really being open to that transformation. So I do see a lot of alliances. I do see a lot of people bridging gaps, finding unique ways to work with each other. This can be in collaborations. It can be to do with wider group situations. However it's going to play out, it's almost like we're in the Middle Ages moving to the modern ages. So we're the paved way in this point in time where, yes, in astrology, some do deem this as the recession, but there's the separate energy of the steps that we're taking to move out of this. There can be beautiful aspects. With Jupiter mid-year, it is moving and retrograding back into Pisces. Again, it will be very Uranian energy. Our psychology, time to reflect upon that. With our growth, are we on point? Do we need to look at something differently? Are we getting stuck in our heads? Are we putting our actual action and best foot forward? That will be the time that for a lot of us, it can be a little bit testing, but it's deeply informative also because we will have the time to assess such. So before I mention how this will affect your zodiac sign, I will mention the key dates that we need to mark on a calendar. And that is for Saturn and Aquarius will be direct between the 1st of January through to May the 23rd. By that point, all of your actions, especially when it does link to Jupiter, and I will mention Jupiter dates as well, we will have approximately 6 months really to get buckle down and get these things done. So I really did say, moving into January, it will be really hit the ground running to monopolize upon the Saturn-Jupiter energy to get the best out of your chart. Now, it will be going retrograde from May the 23rd. And it is at 13 degrees Aquarius, and it will stay retrograde until October the 11th. So you can find frustrations and reflection upon that accountability from a karmic point of view around that time, and then applying the changes as it goes direct from October the 11th at 6 degrees until January 2022. That will be at 11 degrees. Okay, Gemini, for your house placement, this is going to be a very unique year. You do have the 9th house placement. Now, the 9th house placement can be to do with long distance travel. It can also be where you're using technology to communicate. It can be spirituality. So it's really linking and dealing with trade, potentially with overseas energies. Foreign countries, travel, purpose, your education. It can be subjects linking to your siblings. But bridging the gap with that, and the unique thing is to really balance this house, we require the 3rd house placement, and it happens to be the North Node of Gemini. So for you, this will be benefiting you, that you will have that added advantage that you can create that balance by, it'll be sort of like it's in your hands. So really with that 1st house placement and the transformations you're making with the way you're showing up in the world and the way the world is seeing you, both within and without, those changes will really benefit as well as communication. So if this is linking to your career, it can be using media to advertise. It could be blogging. It could be writing articles. It can be using the collective 11th house to, do your dealings and to bring groups together. It can also be management. So however it's falling for you, we will channel the energy week by week to tune into how that's transforming in your life. But there can be a lot of things to do with busyness and growth and expansion. Now, Saturn in Aquarius transit dates, before we move on to Jupiter, we are having Saturn in Aquarius direct from the 1st of January till May the 23rd, where it will go stationary retrograde on May the 23rd at 13 degrees Aquarius through till October the 11th at 6 degrees Aquarius. Now, the direct motion of this will be from October the 11th at 6 degrees through to January 2022 at 11 degrees. Okay, as for Jupiter, now I'm really looking at the charts, and with these placements, we did have, as I mentioned, the conjunction point with Saturn and Jupiter, and that was on the 21st in December 2020. Now, what we have moving forward are some beautiful aspects, but we really need to monopolize upon it, and this is going to take a great deal of accountability with that vision. So with Jupiter, it's showing the vision, it's giving us the energy, it's giving us the opportunities, but we will need to take direct accountability. And we do have a window pocket. Now, in the initial stages, moving into 2021, we have most of the planets direct. We have Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct by the 1st and out of shadow by the 14th. So with Jupiter and Saturn, we have until about the end of January. And then even by mid-January, we're going to be in shadow stage of Mercury going retrograde, and it will be in the house of Aquarius. So it will both link to these big boys in the sky and reflecting upon what all this energy means between Saturn and Jupiter and what we're going to do with it, what some of these themes are. And very much, as I mentioned before, with Aquarius, it can feel like the black sheep of the family. It can be pack and tribe mentality. It's wanting to have this innovation and change, and it's all for the people, but sometimes we can feel like the odd one out. So adjusting to this can take a little bit of time. So it's perfect that we will be having a Mercury retrograde going into shadow by about mid-January and then retrograde by the end of January. So moving into 2021, a bit of reflection on all the placements we hold within our zodiac signs where Aquarius lands, which I have mentioned and I'll continue to. How it's going to affect us, tuning into it. Now, contracts, signing of anything, there can be complications. There can also be additional information coming towards you, especially when it does come to group endeavors and growth. It can be not the best time to launch projects. Far better to, if you are going to launch anything relating to Aquarius, with both Saturn and Jupiter in those placements, better to wait till after Mercury direct. Okay, so the must-know dates with Jupiter. Jupiter is making two transitional points. One, it will be in Aquarius until June 20th, where it does move into Pisces, and we will get a very different energy. And around these dates, it's very important to pay attention to what some of these themes are, because Jupiter will be entering Aquarius again towards the 1st of January, which can be taking on those themes, and it will be at 0 degrees. So initially, we will have Jupiter direct from January the 1st at 2 degrees Aquarius until June the 20th. Now, it's pretty much a month after Saturn would have already been well and truly retrograde. We still have Jupiter direct, so it will land on June the 20th. Then with the retrograde, it's retrograde between the 20th of June at 2 degrees Pisces. Keep an eye on those dates. Till October the 18th at 22 degrees Aquarius. Now, as it moves direct on October the 18th, it will be in Aquarius until the end of the year, where it will yet again enter. So we have the retrograde point at the middle of the year. As I mentioned, pay attention to those dates, and that should hold you through. Now, we'll talk about how it's going to link to your zodiac sign, what these themes can be. Gemini, during this Jupiter transit, we initially have Aquarius in your 9th house. This is very good for networking, looking at the bigger picture. It can be tapping into marketing. It can be upskilling. It can be things linking to siblings, Ninth house can be belief systems, foreign countries, travel, purpose. To balance it, we do need to use the third house placement, which currently it's in your first house placement. It's the nodes in Gemini. So this can really benefit you this year, and it can be a lot of transformations that you do undertake. Now, during the retrograde effect, which is occurring June the 20th at 2 degrees Pisces, it's going from the ninth house into your 10th house. Now, 10th house is what we work on. It's our employment, it's our career, it's our reputation, it's where we've been on mission. So because it's retrograding back, initially we may find things that we're doing in upskilling, education, spirituality can be developing, and then as it goes retrograde into Pisces with that Jupiter energy, we can be looking at the deeper meaning. Okay, are we on point? Do we need to transform something? Looking at the psychology surrounding it, it will feel a little bit like Neptune and Pisces. You know, are we delusional? Are we seeing this right? Is there something we would need to shift? Now, we're also going to have Jupiter in Pisces in 2022. So during this retrograde effect, it's a little bird's eye view to see how things are going to transform and what themes can come up. Very similar to what we had the year prior with Aquarius. So having a look at those domains and checking into what themes potentially can be playing out for you in 2022. Now, it will go stationary direct on the 18th of October, and that point will be 22 degrees Aquarius. Now, it is the critical degree point, so again, it will move back into your ninth house placement, so pay attention. If you do feel anything in your ninth house has been out of balance and it needs fine-tuning, the Pisces placement will help you, but it's like you're doing a double whammy. You're doing a bit of both. You're looking at it from a different perspective, and then as it goes direct into Aquarius, you can re-implement any of those changes that you did attain. And you can find during that time you can have a shift in your perspective. It also can be linking to faith, marriages, connections, transformation in those areas, and having those deeper connections. Let's have a look at Uranus and Taurus. Now, it will be stationary shadow by the 1st of January 2021 at 6 degrees Taurus. It then will be direct by the 14th of January at 6 degrees Taurus. Now, the direct motion will be pretty much from January 14th through to August the 20th, where it will be at 14 degrees Taurus. So we have that pocket between January and August where we can have that direct movement with anything that we've reflected upon, all those changes that may have occurred. And the changes can be coming up in the first 2 weeks of January. And although we do have 3 squaring aspects this year with Saturn and Uranus and Taurus, I am feeling, although major astrologers are discussing the fact that we're going to have 3 major shifts when it does come to Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius, I really do feel the beginning of the year is going to give us this theme of what potentially can come through. And I will discuss dates, very much linking into these energies, during the year and, throughout. So the retrograde, the next retrograde cycle is between August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus and January the 1st at 10 degrees Taurus 2022. Now, the first point of the squaring aspect that we are experiencing will be February the 17th. Now, with that, we will already have Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. It would, by mid-January, we will be having those shadow aspects plus Uranus and Taurus is in shadow cycle. So it can be, again, pretty much anywhere from the 1st till the 14th and the 17th. There can be sudden changes and difficulties when it does come to Aquarius and Taurus placements. Now, the second part of Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn will be on June the 14th. Now, Saturn in Aquarius will be retrograde from May the 23rd till October the 11th. We also will have Jupiter in shadow during this time, moving into retrograde into Pisces by June the 20th. By this point, prior to the squaring aspect occurring with both Uranus and Taurus and Saturn and Aquarius, we would have had the annular solar eclipse, the new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And we also have Pluto in Capricorn retrograde between April the 27th and October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. So, you know, with this phase during June the 14th, you can find again major themes to do with the eclipse can be cycling, and that's due to the fact that we have the North Node in Gemini, and this is a brand new moon, so it will be an ending and a new beginning. When it comes to Jupiter, the reflection state and the shadow cycle of that will be moving into effect. So we'll already be feeling that by this point, by the time we have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. And on top of that, just to make things really, really nice, we would have already had Saturn retrograde. So it's the reflection time. It's the frustration of, okay, where hadn't we taken accountability when it relates to the Aquarius placement? Is it something financial? Is it something in a value system, spiritually? However it's playing out, I'll link it to you once I finish these three aspects. We will discuss, you know, how this is going to affect us all. Okay, now December 24th, we do have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, there are major themes on this month occurring that will directly kind of impact this one zone. So we do need to look at those before we do look at Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, number one, Uranus and Taurus will still be retrograde, and that's until January 2022. It went retrograde August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus until, as I mentioned, January 2022. We also, on the 4th of December, had a solar eclipse, new moon in Sagittarius. So it's an ending in one domain and a brand new beginning in another. The other area we need to be mindful of is that Aries and Chiron is stationary direct. It should still be in shadow. By this time, it went direct as of the 19th, but there still can be, you know, this lag and recuperation that we're trying to get. On top of that, we have the Sun in Capricorn. So yeah, really having to look at that accountability within our lives, utilizing that energy that we had at the beginning of the year and looking at things to do with our accountability showing up. It can be government related dynamics, but the accountable energy and going back to that foundational level. Mars also is going to be in Sagittarius, so both with the eclipse and with Mars, it's really pushing towards those new Jupiter energies in a very unique way. Now, Aquarius is the polarity of the collective. It's the it's the person that understands, or energy rather, we should say. It's the collective energy that will be coming through, but it's the humanitarian. It's groups forming, it's the people, so to speak. So wherever it's falling in your chart, it's going to be deeply important. Now, Uranus and Taurus understands the requirements for the structures, but also is understanding the necessity for change when it does come to Uranus and Taurus. So we need a balance of both worlds, but there can be complications surrounding those energies. And as Uranus and Taurus goes direct, and it kind of matches because we'll have Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the Sun in Capricorn, putting your energy into that to make these things happen. Mars in Sagittarius, the solar eclipse that occurred, which was a new moon, and for the next 6 months we can have activations on that point, plus Uranus and Taurus squaring on the 24th. So do expect either side and pretty much the entirety of the month, you know, being prepared, looking at those placements, working on those areas so that when it does come to the squaring aspects, you're in alignment. Now, sudden changes can happen with placements linking to Uranus and Taurus, and it can be instantly. Now, this can happen anytime either side of this month due to the fact that the energy of its squaring is occurring on the 24th, but because it's retrograde, any inklings you have, and I'll name the dates again, between August the 20th, be prepared. Start looking at those things that need changing. Yes, sudden changes may have happened around then. It can give you an idea as to what can be coming up right now, and start implementing them before that time. Really use those times and the retrograde effect to implement those changes of where those, you know, tension points were in life, so that when it does come to that point, you know, you're not going to have a very tense Christmas. Now, because we're having Aries and Chiron direct, Yes, our wounds are relating to an area, but we can't allow our wounds to stand in our way. And it's beneficial that it's direct. We can have a little bit more energy moving out of our way, so to speak. That's why it's there for, for the 7 years, is to help us develop that. But looking at the key themes of both Taurus and Aquarius to get the best out of it, and trying to find the yin and yang. Now, Taurus collectively can relate to land, agriculture, beauty, our finances, food, resources, and Aquarius is the wider group energy of the people. Again, it can be institutions, it can be viewpoints, it can be value systems, helping one another, sometimes to the detriment of ourselves. So it's going to be this fine line, and even moving into the beginning of 2021, really adjusting to that. And the benefit will be that we'll have that pocket time to kind of ease into it, but it can feel a bit like it's thrown upon us. So bear in mind there can be tension points there. Any themes that come up around August, pay very close attention. Fine tune them, move them so that you're protected. I'd probably say if you want to store, get your Christmas presents in order well and truly before the end of the year. Start, paying for those things little by little so that it's not going to agitate the apple cart. That can be wherever, again, which I will talk about for your zodiac signs during the year and inside this video separately, where we can discuss what can be coming up for you. Okay, Gemini. Now, February 17th, we have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. Now, we do need to be mindful that by about mid-month January, all through February, we are having Mercury in Aquarius retrograde. Now, for you, this connects to your 9th house placement. So there can be a lot of reflection on your belief systems, on your education, on your spiritual connections, on foreign countries. So, with that, and this can be even long distance travel. So, themes surrounding that for you, Gemini, can be coming up in a reflection sense. And when it does come to any contracts relating to those areas, be it it's marketing, advertising, launching, it's better to wait until Mercury goes direct, and that's after February 21st. Now, during the squaring aspect on February the 17th, the tension point can come through with maybe even your bigger picture when it does come to your finances, maybe getting stuck in your head about situations. Maybe you have some fantastic creative ideas, but you feel stuck due to responsibilities you have. This can be information delayed, maybe locational related, even when it does come to having the money to move, if that's something that you're wanting to plan. Having that epiphany and that difficulty, sitting with it initially, but solutions can come, and there can be sudden changes in this domain. Now, on the second part, which is going to be June the 14th, we have again Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. During that phase, we'll already have Saturn in Aquarius retrograde. So how you're showing up, you'll do a lot of reflection, connecting into your 9th house placement. This can be if you're studying and upskilling, or if you're working in spiritual work. Where are you at? What are your viewpoints? How can you do things differently? It can be coaching, education, group activities, differing belief systems, travel. What else can it connect to? Networking, advertising, marketing, media, blogging. So the reflection will be going on in that domain, but Uranus and Taurus is squaring it, so it can cause complications when it does come to, again, your creative ideas, feeling really stuck, being unable to implement them, maybe feeling that people will not understand your viewpoint, but really sharing those viewpoints. And it can even be tension that you're holding to yourself when it does come to, stability, luxuries, value systems coming up. And again, financially, those creative ideas, of what you're thinking on and how you're going to implement them. This can even be debt, but it can also be psychology, feeling really burdened and overwhelmed. But with the reflection, you can get some reprieve, but it will be after October. But I don't mean that you won't have reprieve during this state. It can just be a very difficult day on the 14th, but it can be very beneficial as well. Uranus and Taurus, although it's squaring, it can be the difficulties causing chaos, causing a solution. So, however, Uranus wants to liberate you from a way of being. And Saturn wants you to keep and to, you know, stick to those responsibilities and those viewpoints. So there's a fine line. There's a healthy balance, but it's finding it that can be the thing that we really need to do. Now, Jupiter will be going shadow at this stage, very much connected to Pisces. So subjects to do with your career can come up. Also, this can be an opportunity to look at potential situations that can come through in 2022 because Jupiter will be transiting into Pisces. We also, during June, had a new moon in Gemini, which was the annular solar eclipse at 19 degrees. So with that, that's very first house placement. It can be a lot of things changing, the things that you want to change about yourself. It can be your image. It can be your daily routine, the way you're communicating, the way you're showing up, what you've learned. Gemini is also to do with education. And you could be, throughout this year, especially with the North Node in Gemini, learning quite a bit, not only through your sharing experiences, but joint ventures are highlighted this year. So you can be networking with individuals on the opposite side of the world, very similar to long distance travel, but through the internet, especially because Uranus links to intranet. Now, also Pluto in Capricorn is retrograde until October the 6th. It went retrograde April 27th. It's in the house of Capricorn, which connects to your shared resources. This can be anything relating to tax, you know, very Pluto as well, the ability to bounce back, sharing, connecting with people more deeply and intimately. It can also be the shared resources you have with your contracts. So reflection and changes can come up around that area. Maybe even looking at your bookkeeping and paperwork. It's not Mercury retrograde, which is great, but it is an opportunity to reflect upon this at this time. Then we have December the 24th, which this one's going to be a very unique transit. We have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius, and it's the axis of your 9th house, which I mentioned previously, and your 12th house. So again, your belief systems, your subconscious mind, tapping into psychology, looking at different ways you can implement it with the people around you, with the differing belief systems, the value systems. Sometimes this can be very, very frustrating at a very separate level. But from a psychological point of view, it can be that the pressure of your responsibilities and distance is transforming you to a degree. It also can be the art in which you do connecting to your employment. This can be transforming, but there can be, again, difficulties on this day. Now, at that point, Uranus in Taurus is retrograde, and it will be until January 2022. It's at 14 degrees Taurus. We also had the solar eclipse and new moon in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is very much your 7th house placement, marriages, contracts, partnerships. And, you know, this year they're really set to transform, especially moving even further. During this time, we also have a Venus retrograde in Capricorn. And with Capricorn, again, as I mentioned, it's shared resources, it's the give and take in connections. It is far better to assess these subject matters in January 2022, and it's because both Uranus and Taurus and Venus will go direct as of January. So with Venus retrograde, it'll be your marriages, contracts, partnerships, even though it is linking to that shared bit with the 8th house of taking it to the next level, building empires together. This can even be relating to your career sector or your family and your group settings. So with that, I'd highly recommend waiting. You can also have blasts from the past coming back. It can show cracks in your connection if they're really, really bad. But it will never be to the detriment of a connection. If a connection's going to break, it's going to break. It gives you an opportunity to look at those aspects with the good, the bad, the ugly, to transform them, to transform it, to get the best out of it. Now, if it's meant to go, it's meant to go. With Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct, and Venus going stationary direct, you can have sudden changes in these domains where it does link to your psychology and relationships. Now, I'm only going to briefly touch on Pluto in Capricorn because it is sort of counteracted by Saturn and Jupiter. So it will ease up. We have had a lot of heavy placements. Now, January can be a large point of this, and December because we have a lot of placements there. Plus, when the retrograde effects happens, I check in with you month by month and I do give you the daily updates. Now, the direct cycle will be from January the 1st at 24 degrees Capricorn. And we're having a Mercury retrograde shadow period by mid-month. So that can be anything Aquarian related, what we need to tie up, miscommunication crosswise. But anything relating to those loose ends, get paperwork done in the first 2 weeks. And you pretty much got through to April 27th. Now, by April, anything relating to that Capricorn placement, there can be reflection upon those things, refinement, and that will be from April the 27th at 26 degrees. The higher in the degree point it gets, the more critical the aspect. We're doing 24, and 0. There's certain critical degree points that can be pretty harsh. So retrograde as of April the 27th through to October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. Then from October the 6th through to January 1st, it will be direct, and it goes retrograde again, 2022. Okay, a lot of subjects can come up to do with shared resources. This can be the give and take in relationships. This will be quite heavy during the beginning of the year, 2021, towards the middle of the year when we have Pluto retrograde, as well as the end when we have Venus transiting into Capricorn. Now, it won't be going direct until 2022. So very much 2022 January, these subjects of what we need to tie up, that can be taxes, it can be inheritance, it can be debt, shared resources, deeper intimacy, what we need to keep, what we need to change, and, where we move into alignment with those energies. Month by month, I cover the transits, so especially if things to this degree are coming up for you, please follow me live. Please follow me on the channel or directly book a reading and I can tune into that area of life for you. Okay, Neptune and Pisces. Yes, the important aspects we do need to look at for you, Gemini, is your 10th house placement. Now, yes, by mid-year, this energy can come up for you due to the fact that we are having Jupiter transit, and although this is a Neptune coverage, it's still Pisces placement. So you can have subjects very much similar linking to your hopes, dreams, your aspirations, your growth and expansion, as well as where they can and can't be in alignment and what we need to do to change it. So pay attention to both of those planets with their transits. They can be deeply helpful for you. Now, the beginning of this point, you will find these themes will come up with Neptune retrograde. You can be reflecting upon those things, as well as to do with the transit. It will link to your career sector, what you need to do, how you're showing up. And by 2022, all of those transformations you have linking to that one domain, as it goes direct, you can then effectively in 2022 have the success. But it's about shifting and changing those things and getting back into alignment. Okay, let's have a look at Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is going retrograde 3 times this year. And some of these subjects we need to look at because they're going to highlight different places of our chart. It will be direct from the 1st of January until mid-month. Now, we're going to get that shadow cycle and it's going to be in the house of Aquarius. Now, this is going retrograde as of the 30th, but mid-month you can feel some of those shadow aspects. So it will be pretty much from January the 30th at 26 degrees Aquarius, retrograde until February the 21st at 11 degrees. Now, that's most of February. So if there's anything paperwork related or wherever that falls in your house, pay attention to that retrograde cycle and it can cause some frustration. Now, from there, it will be direct from February the 21st, 11 degrees Aquarius, until May the 29th at 24 degrees Gemini. Now, a lot of subjects relating to Gemini will come up during the next retrograde cycle, and that is between May the 29th, 24 degrees Gemini. Remember, we've got the North Node in Gemini, until September the 27th, 25 degrees Libra. Okay, from that point we have the direct motion, and that will be from October the 18th, 10 degrees Libra, until January 2022, 28 degrees Capricorn. So a lot more Capricorn themes coming up in January 2022. So what themes can be coming up? Now, the first retrograde is Aquarius energy. Pay attention to that cycle between January and February. The next retrograde is between May and June, and it's in the house of Gemini. The third one is between September and October, and it's in the house of Libra. So again, I will talk about this for your zodiac sign. Food for thought, remember these dates. Okay, Gemini, now the first Mercury retrograde is occurring from the 30th of January through to the 21st of February. Now, there can be issues surrounding the 9th house placement. This can be education, upskilling, belief systems, values, dealing with foreign countries. If you're using this for work, it could be media, blogging, things like that. Complications relating to technology as well. So if you're doing anything relating to travel, there can be some delays. Probably not the best time during that retrograde to have it in the 9th house placement. Better to wait till after the 21st of February. So do expect delays. Subjects relating to that you may be meditating upon, but there can be tension points linking to that and frustration. It can be very busy. You can have a lot of hustle and bustle. There also can be subjects relating to, siblings and things to that degree. Now, the second Mercury retrograde is happening from May the 29th through till June the 22nd. Now, this connects in with your first house placement, plus we have the North Node in Gemini, so you can really be reflecting upon yourself, how you're showing up in the world, your image, how people potentially are perceiving you. Again, it can be very busy and there can be things coming at you. It's a bit like stubbing your toe and all of a sudden things are happening. So do expect that time frame to be a little bit tense and people needing or projecting towards you. Also, when traveling, caution. Communication can be an issue, people misinterpreting what you're saying. So yeah. Now, the last Mercury retrograde is occurring on the 27th in the house of Libra, which is your 5th house placement. So any creative endeavors, subjects to do with romance, children, your luck, you can really be reflecting on that. And if you are trying to launch something, or you're trying to do things that are nice and, have those luxuries and build on those subjects, there can be, again, delays linking to 5th house placement. 5th house placement can also be creative ventures. Let me give you an example. Being an artist and, having a gallery opening, there can be tension points with that. But if you do have something creative that you're creating and you're wanting to open up and launch, it's better to wait till October the 18th after. Okay, Mars retrograde. We had Aries in Mars for some time. We also have Aries and Chiron there, which will remain there for approximately 7 years. Now, during this year, we will not have a Mars retrograde. We will be happy to know after 2020. So you'll have a lot more energy. But tension points relating to Aries can be building up until the 6th of January. Now, there may have been tension points last year relating to your hopes, dreams, aspirations, friendship groups, being able to achieve certain targets. Aries and Chiron will heal that area, but we will have, as I mentioned, Mars transiting the other zodiac signs to give us a bit of flavour. So the first transit's occurring from January the 6th through to March the 3rd. This will be your psychology, tapping into it, tuning into things. A great time to get grounded, but really working through that dark matter in the mind, trying to get into a more relaxed state, focusing on your belief systems, your psychology. It can be a very psychic time, but you may need to develop techniques to quiet the mind. It can be like a war of the mind because it is Mars. Those creative ideas, however, it could be really great to journal. And if you do need support or anything to that degree, it is a healthy time to get those things under wrap. Now, from March the 3rd through to April the 23rd, we have it transiting Gemini, and this is your first house placement. So there can be a lot of themes to do with how you want to show up in the world, how people are seeing you. You may be very fiercely on fire during that time, in your own element, and you'll have a lot more energy. So getting anything done, it can be even getting fit, changing your appearance, but whatever you're needing to do, there can be a lot of focus on that, a focus on self. Then we have from April the 23rd to June the 11th, we have Mars transiting Cancer, and this can be increasing your net worth value. This can be your income increasing, dealing with financial matters, land, professional resources, networking. This will be, as I mentioned, from April the 23rd through to June 11th. Now, from June 11th, we're having it transit Leo. This can be to do with your vehicle, services, communication, depending again on the industry you work in or what subjects coming up. It can be car-related dynamics, technology, putting your energy into talking to a lot of people all of a sudden, catching up with people and communicating. You can be extremely busy during this time. So I do suggest between June the 11th and July the 29th, pay attention to the road, because, you know, go with Mars. We need to pay attention to the road, especially since we have the North Node in Gemini, which relates to Mercury. Okay, so from July the 29th through to September the 14th, we have Mars transiting the 4th house. If you are needing to move or you're trying to get your routine sorted at home, this can be repairs, getting those errands done. There can be more energy and focus relating to your day-to-day routine, domestic situations, getting things in order. This can even be moving home and things to that degree. Now, from that place, we're then moving Mars from September 14th till October the 30th in the House of Libra. This can be focusing on children, romance, creative pursuits, luxuries, really honing in on that area. And this could be a very good time to actually have an epiphany related to a creative project that could turn into a hobby or a business. From October the 30th till December the 13th, we have Mars transiting Scorpio. This can also be a time to reflect upon your work environment, habits, routines. It's the house of hidden enemies. It's also to do with healthy boundaries, pets, and your health and diet. So we've moved Mars being in the 5th can create excessive hunger. Be careful of that. Moving to the 6th, it can be okay. We need to get our health in check. It's probably, again, a good time to actually look at that. Providing we don't have a Mercury retrograde, we don't have Mars retrograde, which is good. It's a good time to have health checks and things to that degree. Getting things in order. From October the 30th through till December the 13th, we have it transiting the 6th house. Now, last but not least, December the 13th, we have Mars in Sagittarius. Now, this is the South Node, so pay attention to both Gemini and the South Node. They're transformed, changed throughout the year. I'll do videos based on these transits separately. With Sagittarius, you can be really focusing on your marriages, contracts, partnerships. This can also be taking a connection to the next level, focusing on employment and what you want to do, getting things in order relating to any person you have an interconnection with. This can also be the luxuries you want to purchase, because it is Venus orientated energy. You know, what you're wanting to do, where you're pouring your energy into it. Now, come January, it will be transiting Capricorn. Last points, Venus retrograde. Now, that is occurring December the 19th until January the 1st. The other point I do want to mention is Chiron and Aries. Now, that retrograde is occurring from July the 15th at 12 degrees Aries until December the 19th, 8 degrees Aries. So pay attention to those times. You can feel a little bit fatigued during that time and irritable, linking to the 8th house. But because we have Mars transiting other signs, subjects relating to Sagittarius will come up towards December due to the fact we have the eclipse. Okay, as for your eclipse dates, we have the eclipse in May the 26th, a total lunar eclipse, which is a full moon in Sagittarius at 5 degrees. We then have an eclipse in June 10th, which is an annular solar eclipse, new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And then November the 19th, it's a partial lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus at 27 degrees. And then finally, in December, on the 4th, we have a total solar eclipse, which is a new moon in Sagittarius at 12 degrees. Again, I will follow these live for all your up-to-date information and energy relating to the astrology. So if you have listened through this far, thank you very much. Take care, beautifuls. I'll see you soon. Again, if you do want a booking, the link is below. I'll see you during all the super chats and the live updates during the month, and we'll check in at the next stop to see how your zodiac sign's going. Love and light, guys. See you soon.